1. The Haunting of Hill Manor. It was a beautiful old manor house, nestled in a quiet countryside. When we bought it, we thought we had found our dream home. Little did we know, it would become our worst nightmare. Strange occurrences began almost immediately. Doors would creak open in the dead of night, and whispers would echo through empty hallways. The children's toys would turn on by themselves, their giggles and songs growing sinister. We convinced ourselves it was just the house settling, our imagination playing tricks on us. But then we started seeing her, a spectral figure in a tattered white dress, with hollow eyes that seemed to bore into our souls. She would appear at the foot of our bed, her ghostly form hovering inches above the floor. She never spoke, but her presence was suffocating. We brought in paranormal investigators, skeptics turned believers. They confirmed the house was haunted, but they couldn't identify the entity. We stayed in a hotel for a while, hoping to escape the madness, but it followed us. We were trapped. One night, as we lay in bed, the whispering intensified, growing louder and more insistent. "Get out," it said, over and over. "Get out." We didn't need to be told twice. We packed what little we could and fled the house that had turned into a living nightmare. To this day, we can't forget the terror we endured in Hill Manor. The specter that tormented us remains a mystery, and the scars it left on our family are deep and lasting. 2. The Forbidden Room. The old Victorian house had always fascinated me. Its sprawling architecture, intricate woodwork, and antique charm drew me in. I'd walk past it every day on my way to work, wondering about its secrets. One day, I noticed a "for sale" sign in the front yard. My curiosity got the better of me, and I scheduled a viewing. The real estate agent was hesitant as he led me through the grand entrance. "The previous owner was eccentric," he said, choosing his words carefully. The tour went smoothly until we reached the top floor. The agent stopped in front of a heavy wooden door. "This room is off limits," he said firmly. "The owner's request. We're not even supposed to show it." I was intrigued. The door called to me like a siren, and I couldn't resist. That night, I returned, armed with lock-picking tools. Inside, the room was shrouded in darkness, its air heavy with the scent of old books and dampness. In the faint glow of my flashlight, I saw it, a massive, ornate mirror that covered an entire wall. My reflection appeared distorted, as if trapped behind the glass. I reached out to touch it, and the mirror rippled like water. My hand passed through, and I felt a chill run down my spine. As I stepped closer, the reflection started to change. It showed me things, horrible things. A woman screaming, a man weeping, a child crying for help. The room itself seemed to come alive, with eerie whispers and ghostly apparitions. I stumbled back, breaking the connection with the mirror. The room grew darker, and the whispers intensified. I made my way to the door, but it wouldn't budge. Panic set in as I realized I was trapped in this accursed room. Days turned into weeks, and I grew weaker with each passing moment. The mirror tormented me with visions of suffering and despair. I knew I had to escape, but the room had other plans. Finally, on the brink of madness, I managed to smash the mirror with a piece of furniture. The room erupted in a cacophony of screams, and I was thrown to the floor. When I came to, I was back in the hallway, the door to the forbidden room gone. I fled the house and never looked back. I've never shared my story with anyone, but I can still hear the whispers of that room, haunting my nightmares. Story 3. The Forest Cabin. My friends and I decided to rent a remote cabin deep in the woods for a weekend getaway. It was the perfect escape from the stress of city life, or so we thought. The cabin was rustic but charming, nestled among towering pines and surrounded by dense forest. The only sounds were the rustling leaves and the distant hum of a creek. The first night was uneventful. We gathered around the fireplace sharing stories and laughter. But as darkness settled in on the second night, things took a sinister turn. We heard it first, a soft, mournful crying from outside. It sounded like a child lost in the woods. Concerned, we grabbed flashlights and ventured into the night. The crying led us deeper into the forest, away from the safety of the cabin. After what felt like hours, we stumbled upon an old, dilapidated shack. The crying seemed to be coming from inside. We exchanged worried glances, but decided to investigate. The door creaked open, revealing a single room with flickering candles and strange symbols on the walls. In the center of the room was a circle of salt, and in the middle of the circle lay a doll, its eyes sewn shut. The crying had stopped, replaced by an eerie silence. That's when we heard it behind us, a whisper, barely audible. "Leave now." We turned to see an old woman in tattered clothing, her eyes wide with madness. She repeated her warning, her voice growing more urgent. "Leave before it's too late." Terrified, we rushed back to the cabin, locking the doors and windows. But the cabin was no longer our sanctuary. Shadows moved in the corners, and we heard the sound of scratching at the windows and the tapping of long, bony fingers. We huddled together, trying to make sense of the nightmare unfolding around us. Hours turned into days, and the relentless presence outside wore us down. We couldn't escape, and we couldn't call for help. Our phones had no signal. As our supplies dwindled, so did our hope. The cabin became a prison, and we were its helpless captives. It was as if the forest itself had turned against us, and the old woman's warning echoed in our minds. To this day, we're not sure what we encountered in that remote cabin in the woods, but we'll never forget the terror of those endless nights.